Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. That is full. This is full. The full is taken out of the full. Take out the full from the full remains. This is the logic of the infinite with which our logic of the finite finds it difficult to reconcile itself. It is an ancient question. Why? If the source of this cosmos, this cosmic existence, is that plenitude of being, what the scriptures of East describe as an infinite bliss, delight of existence. One of the texts has it, from delight all things are born, by delight all are sustained, and into delight all pass. Who indeed could live, could breathe, but for this ether of bliss that pervades this cosmos? Citing this text, Sri Aurobindo raises the question in his Life Divine, why then is our life so much characterized by pain, by suffering, by evil? Answering the question in his chapter, The Delight of Existence, the problem, the delight of existence, the solution, he says, if we were to total up the sum of happiness in the world and total up the sum of misery, pain in life, the sum of happiness is found to exceed. That is why man wants to live despite all suffering and contrary experience. The will to life owes its origin to this undercurrent of bliss, delight under all life. Then why? How has it come about that we don't have happiness as a rule, but the other way around? It is because we have lost the art of living. We don't know how to live. We are being lived by circumstances, by movements around us. And to be happy, one must have an art and a science of living. And the technique to develop this art is yoga. The process of working out this principle is yoga. And the application of this technique, the philosophy underlying this process, is naturally based on what is your view of life. There is a view which says that this terrestrial existence, life on earth, is all that is. There is nothing else. This is called the terrestrial view of life. It has two consequences. Either it promotes hedonism, that life is limited. It has neither a before nor an after. So let us make the best of it. And what they call pleasure, what they call the joy of life, sensational joy, they pursue as the sole end. And even then not all are happy. At the other end, this lack of belief in anything permanent beyond this life leads to cancellation of faith in the soul, faith in oneself as a permanent entity, and in a divine principle or a divine reality. And the sole object is cancellation of oneself from the list of life. There is another view which says the truth of life is not here, but there, somewhere beyond. It is beyond the cosmos. And we have to have that aim. And life here should be used only as a springboard to reach out to that reality. This is known as the supracosmic view of life. There is a third view, what I would call the supra-terrestrial view, which conceives that there are other worlds than this physical world of ours, and our physical life here will have its issue there. You prepare yourself, you equip yourself, and according to your equipment will be the type and the kind of the world that you will live in after you pass. I would say that there is some truth in each of these positions, and an integral view of existence, such as advocated by Sri Aurobindo, requires that we admit all the three truths, accept the reality and the value of life on earth, recognize that the source of life, source of this cosmos, is somewhere above. In the Vedas, our ancient scriptures of which we spoke last evening, he said, the foundations of this world are above, not below. And we should recognize that we are part of a cosmic system. What we are here determines what we shall be there. So there is one system, and all the three views have truths which have to be synthesized in our life. And for that to be possible, we have to assume, accept that this universe is a system of worlds pervaded by a consciousness, a divine being, a divine reality, which is evolving from stage to stage. The purpose is to build a plenary manifestation of this divine consciousness with all that it implies: knowledge, power, love, harmony, bliss, all these values and powers that are inherent in the divine consciousness. They are seeking to organize themselves, embody themselves in life. And the purpose of human existence, man's life, is to grow in consciousness so as to receive, build these values, step by step, simultaneously in some cases, so that all that is meant by God, all that is meant by the divine is embodied and radiated in life, so that the kingdom of God is truly established on earth. The purpose of life, as I said earlier, somewhere, is not salvation, not escape, not that petty selfish ideal of escape from the rounds of birth and death, leaving the entire mankind to its fate, but perfection, perfection of life. And perfection is to fulfill the divine intention. And what's the divine intention in life? The divine consciousness manifests in the mind as knowledge, in the heart of the soul as love, in the life dynamism as power, and in the physical as beauty. We have to build a life that progressively realizes these values, not because they are elegant, not because they are utilitarian, but because they are the truths of life. The spirit which seeks to embody itself in matter, in life energy, in mind, in the emotions, it consists of these eternal verities of life. And the science of living, which can develop these values to their optimum without clashing with each other, but in a synthesized, harmonious whole. That's the science which will allow us to draw the full sap of life, utilize life at its optimum to fulfill our objective in life. And we start where we are. We do not need for this purpose to find the reality, the truth of ourselves, to give meaning to our life in terms of this truth of life. We do not need to renounce life. We do not need to run away from our positions or assignments in life. We do not need to be hermits, monks. We have to practice this life, this intense life, wherever we are, at whatever stage. And in this scheme, we start on the physical plane, the material existence, which is all that most of us have. And physical life, we recognize, is not meant only for eating, only for drinking, only for living through, but to promote beauty, to promote harmony. For the soul of beauty is harmony. Beauty, Sri Aurobindo describes in his epic Savitri, is the footprint showing where he has passed. Beauty is the priestess of the eternal. Where there is beauty, there the divine presence lives. Where there is ugliness, where there is a value or a form that rejects beauty, that is contrary to beauty, the divine presence does not linger. In India, we call the highest God, Shiva, as Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. The truth, the felicity, the beauty. In every department of life, we have to promote and build this value of beauty, system, neatness, cleanliness, right organization of life in terms of beauty. And what is beauty form is rhythm in movement. The right rhythm, that is a translation, a rendering of beauty in dynamic life. The ancient Greeks had something of this conception when they evolved their aesthesis, physical aesthesis of beauty. They laid great stress on the right proportion of the physical body and the right rhythm, right movement. I have always wondered whether that conception is not at the bottom of this institution of Olympics, which started in ancient Greece. It is an ascetic superstition. In fact, an aberration that teaches us, that calls upon us to shun beauty as a temptation and as a snare. No. Beauty purifies. Beauty stills the emotions. Beauty fills us with wonder. It releases us from the gross hold of the senses. And I have always been struck, ever since I have started coming to the West, to this country, of the great value given in day-to-day life by people of this country to the elegance of life and order, the way in which things are arranged, things are handled, things are given, the way a present is wrapped and put in a beautiful ribbon and things and presented. Now that shows whether they are conscious of it or not. They are practicing this yoga of the physical in promoting the values of beauty. The mother was my teacher, had to spent about 4 years of her life in Japan from 1916 to 1920 in the First World War. She was a great artist in her own right, great painter, a musician, vocalist. And when she went to Japan, she was astounded by the aesthetic culture, by the aesthetic sense of the whole Japanese race. She said the way they reared their garden, the way they built their temple in particular locales, the way they used pictures for decoration in their homes was so educative. She said, if in Europe I were to ask anybody, why is this picture in this place? They would say, well, that place was vacant and we thought it would be good. But a Japanese family would explain to you why that particular picture has to be there and not there. She considered the Japanese soul, the soul of the Japanese race, as the aesthetic soul of the world. Of course, I am speaking of times at the First World War, not after the Second World War. Today the Japanese, I am sorry to say, have lost their soul. That apart. In this science of living, of fourfold perfection of life, integral development of life, we have to pay attention to the maximum use and the most considerate use of things that are given to us by providence and nature. We have to learn to be conscious that there is a consciousness in everything. In every object that we are privileged to handle, there is a consciousness. And that consciousness is divine. You have no right to handle a thing carelessly, and that will not stay with you if you insist on using things recklessly. There is a presence, there is a life which demands that you handle it with regard. And any person who wants to be spiritual, build a spiritual dimension in life, which means a development of his own consciousness, has got to regard the presence of this consciousness in everything. In a flower, in a book, in a chair, in an organ, in a tape recorder, everywhere. And you will see that as you practice this art of regarding consciousness in things around you, they begin to respond to you. And your own consciousness grows in the process. Unity of life, unity of consciousness, communing with the consciousness around, that is an essential part of the first stage, the physical stage of the science of living that I am speaking to you of today. And we have to educate our children in the right movement, the right habits of movement, not haphazard, not careless movements of hands and legs and feet, but a controlled movement. The mother used to describe how once, when she was walking in the streets of Paris, when she was very young, she saw a woman who was walking ahead, and she said she was walking with such grace that the whole of the old Greek civilization stood before her eyes, and she could not take her eyes off that woman till she disappeared round the bend. In India, we have the science of dance, where they teach you the most graceful movements, teach you the meaning of each movement, each gesture. No careless gesture is permitted. It is a science by itself. But in our daily life, elegance of gestures, elegance of movement, economy of movement, it is necessary. How much energy do we waste in useless movements? How much energy could we conserve if only we were to use our energies for the purpose for which they are given? This giving the attention to the physical part of life, and not just cancelling it, rejecting it as a snare, as something foreign to the spiritual or religious life, that is required. It is. The mother used to say, a perversion, a misdirection brought in by the anti-divine in teaching men to shun beauty, to love barrenness, to love asceticism, reject the plenitude of life, which is the bounty of God. That is one. The second, each one of us has plenty of life energies directed by our willpower. No person can live without activity. And action, whatever we do, whatever works we put in, they produce the reactions, and works are considered as a means of bondage. They forge karma. They make us fatigued. They make us involved. And the old spirituality asks you to desist from activity to the extent you can. Treat it, if at all, as a means of purification, but withdraw from activity. But modern spirituality, of which I am speaking, teaches you how to utilize activity, work, as a means of liberation, to convert what is a means of bondage into a means of liberation. And the greatest gospel of works given to man is given in the Gita, which is an important scripture of India, on which Sri Aurobindo has written 2 monumental volumes of essays on the Gita. The substance is this, that all work, all activity should be offered as a labor of love to the divine. All energies at all levels of our life, mental energies, emotional energies, vital energies, physical energies, they are offered, consecrated, made sacred by offering to the divine. And one works, remembering that central resolve, and because it is offered to the divine, one learns to do it as perfectly, as best as one can. And the true test whether I have truly offered and worked is what attitude I have to the result of that work. Just as I offer the work to the divine, the results too are left into the hands of the divine. I have no right to claim a particular result. That means I am still staking my claim. When I have a perfect equality, equanimity, whatever the results, it is the divine will, the divine's choice. That is a true test that I have worked with the right attitude. Next step is, just as I give up my claim to the results of work, to the fruits of work, I should give up my claim to the choice of work. I shall not decide what work I shall do and what I will not, saying that this is superior work and this is manual work. Whatever work comes, I do as an assignment from God. The sense of the doer should go. One should become and learn to function as a channel, as an instrument for the power of God to flow through me, to flow through one. And when this is done, you will find that at the end of the day there will be no fatigue. Wherever there is fatigue in work, that means there is certain wrong attitude, something missing, something failing in one's approach to work. So done, works do not bind, works release one from previous bondages, build a certain identity with the divine consciousness to which things are offered, in whose consciousness things are done, in whose consciousness things are received. There is a growing unity with the divine will, and one begins to unite with the larger cosmic energies that are afloat in the universe. It is not one's individual energy that functions thereafter. There is always an entry and a flow of cosmic energies, and the results are untold. The third step is at our emotional level, at the heart level. We know it is a mixed sea of emotions. We have what are called godly qualities, godly impulses, and what are called the anti-influences, which are vestiges of our evolutionary past. They may be roughly described as negative qualities, negative faculties, as opposed to the positive ones, which lead us towards the divine perfection, which lead us towards real happiness and peace. Anything that draws us away from peace, from harmony, from purity of being, which invites the divine presence, is a negative quality. So if we are serious about things, we have to set about rejecting, eliminating the negative factors from our life. violence, hatred, anger, envy, depressions, all these are clouds that veil the soul. We have to make an earnest attempt to draw out and practice the values and the qualities of goodwill, benevolence, compassion, friendship, harmony, love, because at the source of all these qualities there is love. Not the human love, which is a calculated transaction, insisting upon a return, insisting upon a recognition, and turning into resentment the moment that love is not accepted or responded to, but a real love which is self-giving, an endless self-giving, irrespective of whether it is recognized, whether it is responded to or not. It is a divine love which is self-flowing. The mother says that one loves because one can't help loving. There is no reason for it. A love which has reason is not divine love. It is a calculated love. We have to draw out these positive values, express them in day-to-day life, express them all the time. It is not that just when I am meditating or praying I will be nice, I will be good and I will be peaceful, but I will be not what is called normal human being otherwise. That will not work. The whole of life is to be taken as a field. All the time one has to exert oneself to build and express these values, so that ultimately it is love that is the dominating motive, the governing impulse in life. And love is the gate to God. Love melts everything. No artificial discipline of self-denial, self-infliction of pain is required. In fact, in the Gita, Sri Krishna, who is the embodiment of God for us, he says those who inflict pain, infliction on the body really hurt me, who am lodged in the heart of every creature. A moderate, a golden mean of food, sleep and other wants is the way. Neither too little nor too much. And man is the only being who can pursue this middle way. He is the being, a potential God, who has been given all the means that will take him nearer and nearer the status of God. And we shall not forget that man is a mental being. Man has a mind, so much so that they say man is mind. Everything that we do or see has got to be first mentalized. And then only it comes to the emotional level, it comes to the vital or the physical level. And the mind that we have developed, the mind that we have today, is a very, very limited mind, a restless mind. If you stop any person without notice and ask him suddenly, what are you thinking about? He will take time to recollect. Because he is just floating in a sea of thoughts. There is restless thoughts. And those who are not that restless, who are supposed to be intellectual, always there is the doubting faculty. The knowledge that man has gained or can gain by his logical mind is a highly precarious knowledge. Knowledge turbaned with doubt, as Sri Aurobindo describes in that epic. What he believes today, he can doubt tomorrow. The mind, the intellectual mind, the rational mind, is a necessary stage in the development of mind, but it is not the final stage. It has been necessary to clear the webs of ignorance and superstition. to teach man to grow out of the sensational belt and discriminate the truth from the falsehood, the right from the wrong. But it can never give you the full knowledge of things. And in the mind, mind is the field where the knowledge is to manifest. Knowledge of truth, knowledge of the reality, knowledge of the being, and knowledge of the becoming, of which we are all a part. And for that, we must learn to bring our mind under control, to regulate the flow of thoughts, to decide what kind of thoughts we will think and what we will not. Not be a kind of football, at the mercy of every circumstance and thought movement. We should learn to quieten the mind, open it to a silence, a surrounding silence that is always there behind every word. In other words, to have small snatches of meditation, to which we shall come tomorrow, of certain concentration, contemplation, so that the mind gets accustomed to live in itself, quiet, so that the mind, when it falls silent, it reflects. The essential function of our mind is to reflect, to be a medium, to be an instrument for a higher mind, for a higher consciousness, for a higher intelligence. Because above the sense mind, just as we have the reasoning mind above the sense mind, we have above the reasoning mind there is a thought mind. Thoughts which do not need objective verification at every moment, as reason does require. Above the thought mind, there is a higher mind, where thoughts come in masses, not one by one, but many simultaneously. Above the higher mind, there is what is called the illumined mind, where knowledge comes in flashes. The area to be known, the area to be understood is lit up by a flash of consciousness. They call it the illumined mind. And above that is the intuitive mind. Intuition is the edge of a ray of truth, falling exactly on the thing to be known. You do not reason out. You do not come to a conclusion by deduction or induction, but it is self-revealing. And that intuitive faculty is the next real stage in our evolution. And this intuitive mind, which has a direct possession of truth, which can give us the right truth, the correct truth when we seek for the solution, functions as truth audition, that is called inspiration. You hear the truth. Truth revelation, you see the truth. And truth in sense, in the sensations, when you touch, you feel the truth of the thing that is touched. This is a threefold intuition. And above that, there is what is called the overmind. The overmind, cosmic mind, is a consciousness, is that grade of mind where you have a comprehensive knowledge at once of everything that you want to know. It gives you the justification of every possibility, of every ideology, of every approach. That justifies why it starts and what's the truth behind it. It is easy enough to dismiss things, this is not right, this is not correct. But why does that position come? What was the possibility inherent in that? The overmental consciousness gives you an overall view, justifying all possibles, justifying the many in the one. Above that is what is called the Gnostic mind, the truth mind, where knowledge and will are one, unlike at our level where knowledge and will are separate. If we know, we don't always have the effectuating will to translate that knowledge into life. And those who have tremendous willpower lack the intelligence to guide them. Now, there is a level as we ascend in our consciousness where knowledge and will are one. And the moment you know a thing, it is immediately effectuated. This is called by Sri Aurobindo the supermind. It is called the Vijnana in the Upanishads. The Gnostic mind, I believe, in the earlier Western philosophy, whatever it is the truth mind. Now, these are all the levels of consciousness waiting for man to be ready so that they may work in the consciousness of man, fill the mind of man, use the mind as an instrumentation, as a channel for reaching out to life. And once these higher faculties enter into our life, life will no more be a painful process, no more a scene of tension and seeking and search, but a self-revelation, a revelation of the reality, a revelation of truth. And it is this pursuit of an integral perfection, not one after another. Things don't work out according to logic in life. In life, we have to pursue all these aims simultaneously. I have to seek for perfection of beauty and harmony in my material life, around me, development of a new motive in the consecration of my life energies, organize my emotional life, my heart around the divine value of love, and develop the mental consciousness into its own higher ranges of existence. That down, there is a progressive building up of a fourfold perfection in life. Yesterday when I was speaking with the Vedas, you would remember, those of you who were present, I spoke of how the universal architect in the imagery of those ancient sages first gives man one bowl, a big bowl. Then as man ascends in his consciousness, he summons the aid of the artisans of immortality, the specific divine powers, and shapes, with their aid, he shapes four bowls out of one. And that is perfection of life. And that is, we have to develop our consciousness on all these four levels. And that alone will build life into an image of integral perfection. I have done, and if you have questions, I should be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Pandit. After the announcements, Sri Pandit will field such questions you may have. And if the treasurer can thread his way to the audience, we'll... Anybody who'd like to have some fresh air, as Sandy is going for, feel free to step out and you won't hurt Sri Pandit's feelings. Do you want to dwell on that business of beauty? I have found that having seen a good many art museums, they affect me nicely. But when I see some of the modern art, I get a different feeling. I don't know. Would you like to take that on?
I thought it was a very good question. The fact is that art is not merely for reproduction of nature. Art, in its highest sense, is to awaken the eye to orders of existence which are not normally sensible or visible. Merely to reproduce a perfect human anatomy serves no purpose. Merely to reproduce a natural scene in nature serves no specific purpose. Photography would do that work much better. But art is intended in whatever form, liquid arts or solid arts, to awaken you to something that exists behind the form. A statue of Buddha is not regarded for that perfect shape, his hands and legs and that, but for that dimension of peace, which is not physical. To the extent that the artist, the sculptor, captures that mood of peace, to that extent it is a real product of art. An Eastern art, which is found very grotesque by certain of the earlier uninformed critics, is precisely this, that it leads you to what is behind the physical form. There is a spiritual art, there is an emotional art, all types of art at each level. And the modern art has fallen into great disrepute simply because the standards, the norms of a modern artist are totally different from the traditional standards which are familiar to us. The truth is that the human mind today is seeking for the fountain of life, for the truth of life. It has realized it is not in physical nature. It is not even in the mind. So human mind is searching everywhere for the springs of life, for the truth of life, for the justification of life in domains of consciousness which are behind the mind. What Aurobindo calls the subjective realm. And just behind the mental order, mental system, there is a sea of loose, unsystematized movements of consciousness. This search for truth in the subjective field, subjective analysis of man, subjective analysis of motivation, is most seen in fictions and writings, say from the writers of Soviet Russia, and lately in some of the writings in the West. Of course, there are many in India. They don't conform to the mental patterns. They are struggling to find some spring of life in the subjective world, which has a different order, which has a different flow, which has a different pace than ours. If you ask the artist, and he explains what was the vision that he had, what is the truth that he seeks to render, he would explain if he is a true artist. No true artist will draw just for the pleasure of drawing. He sees something, it answers to a truth that he experiences. And till I develop my standard, understand that my received standard is not the final standard, but there are developing standards, I personally would desist from judging specimens of modern art. Not that I can't really understand many things, I can't appreciate many things, but where I can't understand, I keep silent. Perhaps there will be somebody who understand and enter. It is like classical music. How many of us can enter into the melodies and the rhythms of classical music? Given the choice, most would go to rock music. It requires a cultivated taste. So I think even what is modern art is a transition stage to a spiritual art, which is slowly coming into its own, where the beauties of the soul, the beauties of emotions, they are rendered in line, in color, in stone, in bronze.
I'd like to ask you a question which may sound superficial, but I don't mean it to be, and that is, give a definition of what you mean by the word beauty.
Beauty is a perfect harmonization, perfect harmony of all the elements in the situation. There is a beauty of thought, a beauty of emotions, a beauty of life activity, a beauty of form. Perfect, the highest possible harmonization of all the elements existing in the situation. That is beauty.
So in the art there could be a human being who by our standards we would consider grotesque and it would portray it.
Yes.
I see, I thought that's...
Yes.
And how do you...
Excuse me. I thought it was the same verse, and I'm going to say next.
No, please.
I was then the word harmony. How do you define harmony?
Harmony is just proportion, a just proportion of things involved. Neither one nor another should get preponderance over the other. Each in its just place, right arrangement of things, whether it is of thoughts or of emotions, as I said, or of things. Each thing in its place, that is harmony.
Balance?
There's one question.
Would you say with balance and blending?
Balance, I would say it is nearer than blending.
Incidentally, there's one thing I like to compliment on those who brought their children here, how well they've been behaved. You have a question?
In keeping with your topic of science of living, I think everybody sometime or other faces a situation where they don't know what to do and something needs to be done and one would not really don't want to initiate something on his own to make a mistake, and on the other hand one would not want to be absolutely passive. What is the best way to go about knowing what is to be done?
Yes. One has to learn the art of observing oneself. Know where there is most disharmony, where there is most room for improvement towards harmony. Establish priorities. Everything can't be done at the same time, but priorities. And the life, you must start organizing it at the easiest available level towards harmony, peace, and knowledge. Peace is the most important foundation. Without an inner peace, we can't achieve or sustain any progress. So whatever promotes peace, that should be built. Whatever stands in the way of peace, that should be eschewed. There can't be a mistake in this. If one is sincere, if one means business, this is the way one has to start. Start with peace. Know that you can't have peace outside you unless you have peace inside you. And this leads to what is called an inner integration.
There's a statement that inaction in a deed of mercy is action in a deadly sin. And I guess the thing to do, if you don't know what to do, why do something. As we say in the Navy, when in danger or in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. And then if you find you're wrong, why don't do it again.
Pandit, could you explain a little further the supercosmic world?
Supracosmic world. It is the supracosmic view of life. This is the cosmos in which we live. There are theories in metaphysics which say that life here in this world, or this existence in this world, has no value or meaning by itself. It draws all meaning from a reality which is elsewhere. So what you have to do is to use life here as a pedestal, to jump into that and sever yourself from cosmos. It is not supercosmic. Supercosmic means there is a relation, something higher. But supracosmic is beyond, not in touch with what is. So our Vedanta, for instance, you as students of philosophy are familiar, they say that Brahman is there supracosmic. This world is not he is not this world. It is only an image of this world, that pretends to be true. The real truth is there. So reject this world, reject this life. It is a shadow, it is a meaningless illusion. It is, at best, it is a lower order. The real order is there. So, Buddha also, God knows what he taught originally. We do not know. But Buddhism we know. We really don't know what Jesus Christ taught. But Christianity we know through the church. Now, he says there is neither soul nor God. There is only nirvana, a state of absolute non-existence. You understand? So it is, wherever there is existence, the truth is not there. How there can be non-existence when there is no existence is another matter. I think we should.
I think so, yes. Well, thank you so kindly, and tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock, and also